Like as been said, my name is Oluwayomi Faromika. I am with the Open and Distance Learning Center at the Federal University of Technology, Akure, as an associate director. I'm an academic staff in the institution in physics, but as a result of my passionate interest in education, uh, especially digital education, I find joy in my assignments as a tenure assignment as the associate director of the distance learning institution. And the theme of my presentation is access to agency, reimagining ODL as a system for human empowerment in the digital age. My work engages with open and distance, like I said earlier, particularly in the context of expanding access to education in developing educational systems. This presentation reflects on an important question within open and distance learning. And the question is, why ODL has successfully expanded access to education? Has it equally succeeded in fostering learner empowerment? That is the question. Please, how do I navigate to the next slide? Okay. Now, discussing education in the age of ODL, over the past few decades, open and distance learning has transformed access to education. We all agree with that across many parts of the world. Advances in digital technologies and online learning platforms have made it possible for universities and institutions to reach learners beyond the physical boundaries of traditional campuses. And that is why we record enrollments. In our own open and distance learning center, during our admission processing, we have seen people bringing their credentials from where they have kept them, lost hope of having access to higher education, perhaps because of the nature of their work or because of age, that they feel now limited them to come to traditional campuses to have access to higher education. But with the possibility of having distance education, they now enroll and we find them qualified and we admit them. So we will agree that the open and distance learning has expanded education beyond physical campuses. It is now possible for universities and institutions to reach learners beyond the physical boundaries. For many countries, particularly in the global south, ODL has become an important strategy for expanding participation in higher education. I've said that. While the field of open and distance learning, within this field of open and distance learning, this expansion is often regarded as a major achievement. That's what we feel. We have a flexible learning environment. We have increasing diversity of learners and learners' needs. And as you can see from that image displayed, you will see it's just a depiction of how open and distance learning has expanded education to the global reach. But then there is a question. When access has increased, what now happens? And that's on the next slide. I didn't know I have to, yeah, that is the question. Access to education has expanded, yes. But as that expanded access to empowerment, that is, does expanded access lead to learner empowerment? In other words, are learners simply gaining access to educational materials, or are they developing the intellectual confidence, agency, and identity that education ideally seeks to cultivate? These are the questions that need to answer, and that is why this presentation is a conceptual presentation. It's something that it's a question that has been in my conceptual is a conceptualized thoughts about open and distance learning and even education in general. Now, we move to the next slide. Yes. Education systems often evaluate success through these three displayed components: enrollment numbers, completion rates, platform engagements. We will all agree with that. While these metrics are useful for measuring participation, they may not fully capture the deeper outcomes of education. They tell us how many learners are participating, but they may not tell us whether learners are becoming more intellectually empowered, which is very, very important. Empowerment. In my own part of the world, we see what is happening in terms of education. There are certain slogans that youth now use because they now feel the need to be empowered by education, and it doesn't seem that that need is being filled. And that need, the consciousness of that need is now being extended or even reinforced by the open and distance learning access to education. Now, we need to ask ourselves what the purpose of education is. And that is why what is mentioned in slide 5. Slide 5, please. Yes, the purpose of education should be curiosity, critical thinking, intellectual agency, and a sense of identity. It is not only about delivering knowledge, but about developing the learner. These qualities enable individuals not only to acquire knowledge, but also to engage with knowledge in ways that contribute meaningfully to society. This is what we want to look into. So now we need, like the question that has been asked earlier, the open and distance learning expansion of access to education, is it achieving this purpose of education? From this perspective, empowering should be understood as a central outcome of education. So while open and distance learning expands, we should be conscious of if this is also along the line empowering learners, which is supposed to be the central outcome of education. We move to the next slide. Technology has played a central role in enabling the growth of ODL. We have digital platforms and the learning management system that has made it possible to deliver learning resources, facilitate communication, and support flexible learning pathways for large and diverse student populations. These technological developments represent an important advancement in expanding educational opportunity, in which ODL has played a strategic role using the power of technology. So we'll agree that technology has made that is being used, the technology platforms such as the LMS system that is being used in the ODL gives room for access to the learning platforms, gives room for flexibility, and then we can have expanded access of reach. But there are risks involved. There are risks involved. Please, next slide. Yes, so technology delivery system may lead to passive content consumption, reduced learner agency, limited intellectual engagements. That is, when learning systems become strongly centered around technology, there is a risk that the educational experience becomes focused primarily on content delivery. In many cases, online platforms may be used mainly for uploading lecture materials, like we have it happening. We distribute assignments, we collect submissions. If care is not taken, these robust platforms that has been developed for this purpose may just be limited to that use. And when this happens, learners may engage with education primarily as consumers of content rather than active participants in knowledge creation. So that means that we have to rethink inclusion. We have to rethink what ODL stands for in terms of offering education. Please, next slide. So we need to look into true inclusion, which should involve participation, learner voice, cultural relevance, intellectual empowerment. It should mean more than access. In this sense, inclusion should involve not only opening the door to education, but also enabling learners to participate meaningfully within it. So that should not
okay. Sorry, I thought we lost the connection for a moment.
As in ODL. How can we am I back now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So rethinking inclusion involves moving from access to empowerment. As displayed there, the traditional focus, then the empowerment focus contrasted. That's what this presentation is focused on. This presentation proposes a conceptual shift, that is, rather than evaluating ODL primarily in terms of access and efficiency, we may need to also consider how learning evolves from moving from an emphasis, reflection, and learner agency. As you can see displayed there, instead of having just access, develop modalities that can enable us to focus on agency, intellectual development, and human achieve that. That is, how do we design empowerment-oriented ODL? Please, next slide. Most institutions already operate learning management that includes
Professor, I'm sorry.
discussion, collaboration, and feedback. However, the empowering potential of this is my time
Professor, over. Professor, perhaps you could switch your video off.
Hello.
And see if, could you switch your video off and then we can maybe hear you better? Your signal isn't very good.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. Let's try it like this and see how we go.
That technology. Yeah. All right. So how do we design empowerment-oriented open and distance learning? Most institutions already prepare learning management systems, which include tools for discussion, collaboration, and feedback. An example is the learning management system. However, The empowering potential of these systems depend largely on how they are used, not just their availability. Empowerment-oriented learning environments may involve designing activities that encourage dialogue, reflection, and active learner participation.
That's what we're doing.
Yes, at the workshop.
Yeah. So, and as a result of this, technology becomes not just a delivery mechanism, but a platform that supports meaningful intellectual engagements. So, conclusively, we can say that ODL has successfully expanded access to education. But the next challenge is ensuring that access leads to empowered learners. That is, access, yes, opens the door to education, but empowerment enables learners to walk through it. And this is the thoughts we want to walk away with, even though this is a conceptual presentation. So we want to develop how this can fully be achieved. Thank you very much for the opportunity.